I wanted to ask you about. Did you ever hear of a guy named Bill Justice?
Oh my, yes.
Oh, tell me
yes.
about Bill Justice.
Legendary
Tell me
Bill
about
Justice.
him.
Bill Justice, passed away a couple of years ago, maybe?
I think so.
He lived a long life. I knew of his work when I was a kid because I would watch these Chip and Dale cartoons. And I always saw the credits, directed by Bill Justice. Well, I began to study more and more about Mr. Justice, and I found out he was a long-time Disney animator. Had been with the company for decades. I don't know. I don't remember how many years, but for decades. And in the 1950s, Walt finally gave him his own unit, his own director's unit, and he worked with a colleague named Javier Atencio,
right.
was part of his team. A few other guys, Dick Ung, Homer Jonas, and they did a series of these Donald Duck cartoons, which usually featured Chip and Dale, the two little chipmunks. And I think Bill was one of the animators who had, I think, created Chip and Dale, or at least played a large part in developing the two characters. So Bill Justice was he was quite a legendary figure. Good animator, good director, been with the company for years, and even did movie titles. For instance, the Parent Trap titles, one of the titles he did for the live-action film. So, once again, a lot of these guys, I don't know much about their personal life. Matter of fact, I know pretty much nothing about their personal life or their family. And it's because, sadly, I guess books haven't been written about them. So I only know Bill's work, his work as an animator and as a director. And
Was he at Disney at the same time you were?
oh yeah.
He was on the second floor, was he?
He was on the second floor. I even remember the wing. He was in F wing, 2F. So that's how well I remember. He was in 2F, and I used to go up there to see what his team was doing. So all of these guys who were just these names on the screen for many years suddenly became real people. Now, I didn't always have the courage to get to know them. I had enough courage to say hi in the hallway, but I didn't want to come across as a geeky fanboy or become an annoyance, so I thought it best to leave them alone. But at least when I said hello and they said hello back, I could say, wow, I just spoke to this person whose work I had been following, for years, as a kid. Because I knew about their work. I would see their work. I'd see their names on the screen. Animation by Bill Justice and so and so. And so it's like the opportunity to meet your heroes.
Did you ever get a sense of what kind of a guy he was? Was he another loud one or a quiet one?
No, quiet. Bill seemed to be one of these guys who was just very measured in his life. He just came to work every day, dressed well. Animators in those days, and directors especially, wore jacket and tie. So it's kind of a formality once you moved up to the second floor. I even wore a tie for a while. Tried to look older. But no, he was a very, very, very kind of soft-spoken, mild-mannered kind of guy.
Now, I'm interested also, did they actually have easels, or were they working more on desks like that?
Pretty much desk. Never saw anybody with an easel. Although I understand I've seen some earlier photographs from the 1940s where some of the artists did have their work propped up on an easel. But for the most part, when I arrived here, almost every background artist worked pretty much on a desk. Now the desk would tilt up and down, but it was a large desk, and I think they were actually built as background desks. All the furniture Walt had constructed for his new studio, they were built exclusively for each department. The animators had their desk, they were built a certain way. Layout artists had another desk and they were constructed a certain way. And the background artists had a background desk, and they were each desk uniquely designed for that task. The background desk, for instance, had a hole where your water pot would go, because as a background painter, you're always dipping your brush in the water. So so all these desks were really great, well designed, and very functional desks.
What kind of desk is that one there?
That's a tabaret. Basically, a tabaret is essentially just a side table. It's a little side table where you can put your stuff on. Like having a little table, you can put your brushes and your, any stuff you might need. And it's got drawers that pull out where you can keep additional supplies in the drawer. But
I can see she's working on a slightly slanted surface there too.
Yeah. Sometimes they would give it just a slight tilt. You don't want to work exactly flat. Although a few guys did. They like to paint flat. But most would give it, a 45-degree angle tilt. Yeah. But that's pretty much, most Viz Dev artists work pretty much like Mary. They love to have a desk in front of them. They love to have another flat surface where they could look at books or artwork or spread things out. And that's pretty much how they worked. And then, of course, in their office, they would have several large storyboards, these large boards where they could pin up the artwork. I miss those. I look around this building. I don't see any storyboards anymore, and that's because everything is digital pretty much. So you're not pinning up artwork, which to me was always the hallmark of an animation studio. It was artwork being pinned up everywhere. Matter of fact, everything I see that's kind of like pinned up, they're all like reproductions. Posters and reproductions, but not really what you would think of as, the actual physical, work in progress. And I miss seeing that. Everything from rough paper sketches to layout drawings to finished backgrounds, kind of what I call this hodgepodge of art that was part of every studio, and I miss seeing that. It's almost as though things are too clean today. There's a pristine quality about the workplace that while it's good that things be neat and tidy, and I can understand all that, it just seems like it just removes some component of creativity.
It's interesting, I guess you don't see any rough drafts.
It's the scruffiness of creativity, I call it. The creative workspace should have kind of a scruffy quality. Even Pixar, when I worked there up in '97, even though it was a digital studio, it still had those hallmarks of a scruffy workspace. Just something very kind of messy. I call it kind of organized chaos. Stuff sort of strewn everywhere, drawings pinned up. Not neat, kind of sloppy. I think that sort of sloppiness is all a part of creativity. When things get a little bit too organized, too structured, it's almost as though our thinking gets too rigid, where we need to be free in order to break out and to be creative. Mary Blair strikes me as a person who was totally free to just go wherever she wanted to go. Just boom, let's just try this, let's try that, let's try anything, let's just do it. And I find that missing from animation in general today. And I think part of that is what this whole digital paradigm has done. It's kind of, at least to me anyway, it kind of hems you in. I don't know what it is, it just tightens everything. And maybe because we have so much control, we've lost, I don't know, part of the creative chaos that I used to find so interesting about this business. I'm doing a storyboard now, and I'm drawing on paper, and I'm really enjoying it. I can storyboard on the Cintiq tablet. Most of everybody does. I mean, I'm sure they do it here. They do all Cintiq, and most studios use Cintiq tablets for storyboarding. And while I have 2 Cintiq tablets, it's not like I lack the tools. Sometimes I like to go back to paper, pencil and paper, and remember what it was like 30 years ago to make a cartoon and do it on paper. I don't know. I feel like I'm connecting to the past, or my past, and the way animation used to be. I feel that while I'm certainly an advocate of technology, and I support technology and I welcome it, I feel that too often we rely too much on it. We just rely too much on it. And a new film that's in development now called Frozen, or Snow Queen, whatever it is. I was looking at some artwork from that production, and looking at these wonderful drawings and paintings and sketches, and knowing that all of these drawings and sketches are going to be eventually transformed into CGI images. And I'm thinking like, yeah, they'll be beautiful, they'll be slick, they'll be polished, but one thing they won't be drawings. Now, some people can call it artwork, but to me, it's digital puppetry, and that ain't artwork. I'm not saying it's not artistic, but it's not artwork, and that's what I miss about this business. The very thing that brought me into the animation business is because it's all about drawing, it's all about painting, it's all about art. Today, it's too much about technology, way too much about technology. And I think if I was a kid starting out today, I'm not sure if I'd want to be a part of this business because I don't like what it's turned into. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it doesn't interest me. It simply doesn't interest me. And when I was a kid and I saw the Disney cartoons, it was like, my God, I want to do that one day. I want to be able to draw like those people. I want to be able to paint like those people. And today, I don't want to use a computer like those people. I just don't care. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't have its value. Again, I'm not knocking technology because the only thing that's changed here are the tools. You know, the tools are different. Instead of pencils, instead of brushes, she's using digital media. But I think she would still do gorgeous artwork. So I'm not saying that people who do viz dev can't do brilliant work because I think they can. I think that what it eventually, you know, the way it's eventually realized just doesn't interest me.
You said they're not drawings.
Not drawings. If you started out, let's say Mary Blair is developing a new project and she's doing it all in Photoshop and she's using a Mac computer and she's doing all this brilliant stuff. That's great. If all this was to go to film, go in animation, and it was a hand-drawn film, I'd say, wow, that's fantastic. But what happens is all of this brilliant art then becomes translated into this digital realm of these moving cyber puppets. As cool as that stuff might look, for me, they're still not drawings. And there's only so much of that I can take. I just burn out on it. It's just not the same. What always fascinated me about Disney, and all the other studios as well, was that they were able to tell stories and to create these worlds with moving drawings. That I thought was fantastic, you know. It's artwork that kind of lives.